Hello friends, Erica with 10 Pegs and Crowns, and today I have a process video for the word focus weight. This focus card is the one that came in the New Beginning devotional from Open Journey. This is the Advent kit that was released for December. I know we're in late January, but we just had a rough December, and so I am now just getting to work on some projects for that Advent kit. So I decided to share a quick process video for this, and I'm using some of those elements from the die cut add-ons, and I'm using some ribbon that Ingrid used to include when she used to package her older devotional kits. And like I said, I hold on to a lot of stuff, and so I try to use as much as I can from the packaging because it's always absolutely beautiful. And so I'm planning to use the big alpha stamps from Open Journey that are available in her shop, and I am going to stamp out the word weight. Now for this technique, I am using the Distress Oxides in color Uncharted Mariner, and you see me stamp broken china onto that little stamp, mounting stamp, because what I want to do is I want to distress the oxide as much as possible. So I'm not, covering the whole stamp element. I'm just, applying ink in various spots, and then when I stamp it, I'm hoping to have a lot of blotchiness, so I can go in with the broken china and kind of fill it in. I spray a little bit of water, and then I fill in the little blotchy spots because I really wanted it to mimic that blue wreath that you saw at the beginning. It's one of the add-on, the die cut elements. So I wanted to mimic those blue colors in that wreath. Now, although I'm not going to be using a lot of ink on the stamp, I am doing a second generation stamp on the bottom as I stamp out the word weight. I'm hoping to use those maybe sometime in a future project for Advent. So I'm going to go ahead and just, stamp it and then put it away and hope to use it for the actual New Beginning devotional. So I'm going to stamp out the word weight, and then I'm going to go back in with the broken china and do the same for the rest of the letters as I did with the letter W. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. I do want the word weight to stand out since I want that to be my main focal point. So that's why I decided with some of those darker colors. And then broken china was a very soft complement to give it a deep contrast, so it might not show up on the actual video, and I do try to bring it up to the screen so you can kind of see, but I don't think that you can actually see it as vivid as you do in person, but it gives it like a beautiful contrast. And so I do spare you the amount of time I spent trying to cut out the words. That is usually the longest part of the longest process for me for this project, just to try to cut it out. So I spared you that long time and edit that out. Here I am using some foundry wax in the color Gilded. As you can tell from the very beginning of me trying to put it onto this stamping block, I was having a hard time because it kind of solidified at the very tip, and so it did not want to come out. And so I am probably due to replace that. I've had it since it probably came out, so I probably do need to replace that. However, I am going to try to use it as much as I can until it just gives out or until it just doesn't work. So I'm just, either very frugal or very cheap. So I do add that foundry wax to the tips of the candles just to give it a little bit more of effect of a gold look. I wanted to make sure to incorporate something bright and golden, kind of to represent, the light of the world. So I love foundry wax, especially I love the effect it gave. Because I did want the word weight to be the main focal point. I'm not going to really do a lot of background work, so I'm using whatever ink was left over from the broken china on the stamping block and added a little bit more water, and now I'm going to splatter it on the card. And I do dry this off camera just because I always feel like it's so loud and it's just boring. So I do dry that off camera, and then I tend to always go back and try to place the elements that I want on my project onto the card after I work on the background. Just because, as you start to place them after the background is worked on, your opinion of what you might want or the placement of the elements may change. So here my intention at the very beginning was to use the word wait and to put it off to the right hand side of the project. I do grab the In Domino stamp set from an previous kit that was released. And I wanted to use the element that had the Holy Spirit that said, wait for the Lord. And I wanted to stamp it onto the actual ribbon or the piece of fabric. And I do use another element from the God My Rock. I'm not really sure if that was a kit stamp or if it was a standalone stamp that was released, but that is absolutely one of my favorite script stamps to use. I'm not sure why. I find it to be very delicate, very soothing. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just just the smaller script element, but it's my go-to. I have found, and I stamped those in black soot. I do use the little cross element as well from the God My Rock stamp set in lumberjack, and I stamp it onto the actual ribbon as well. Now, a lot of those stamps on the actual ribbon will be covered up from the word, but I do want that to just kind of peek through, from in between the letters or in the background. I didn't want to just add this blank piece of ribbon on there. I did want it to give it, some depth and texture. I did forget to turn on my camera, and I glued the pine cones and the two bigger candles onto the page. I'm not sure what happened. I think it was just like, a little brain fog moment. But my son walked in and he asked me what I was doing, and I realized in that moment, oh, I never turned my camera back on. So I am using a double-sided adhesive foam tape, and I cut it to size to kind of bring up the smaller candle just to give it some more depth. I didn't want a flat project on my card, and so I am trying to see if using the foam adhesive tape would also work on the actual letters, because I want them to pop out from the page, but I'm not sure it's gonna work. So I'm just gonna finish adding some of the other elements, and I'm wanting to see where the Holy Spirit now is gonna lie, since I originally wanted it all on the right side, and now it seems to all have fallen onto the left hand side, because I did want that wait for the Lord stamp seal to show up on this project. I actually ended up really, really liking it, and I wanted that to show. So now I'm going to go ahead and add I realized that when I was cutting out the letters, I did not cut in the middle of the letter A, just that little triangle piece. So I go ahead and do that because I want some of that background to peek through. Now, because I used this Distress Oxide ink on the actual ribbon, I had originally intended to glue some of it down, but I didn't want the actual, glue to, affect the Distress Oxide. I should have used the Distress ink. I went for the Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher stapler, and I try to kind of guess and eyeball where some of the words would fall, and that's where I place the staples to kind of hopefully cover them up. When I use the double-sided foam tape, I usually tend to glue the piece onto the actual project as well as the background. Now, the reason I choose to do that, even though it might be a little bit, redundant, is that even though it has adhesive, I have found that adhesive tends to wear out and kind of dry up. So my projects tend to fall apart. And so just adding that extra layer of the Barely Glue Arts onto the both sides of the foam tape is just kind of, in my opinion, like a double security, just to make sure it holds up well. I do want to add that when I do glue it to the little cluster, I do give it a little bit of time to kind of dry onto the project, because once you start peeling the adhesive or the little backing on the other side of the adhesive foam, you tend to kind of like pick up the foam. And so now you have to wait again to kind of, make sure it gets stuck on there. So by the time I'm done placing cutting up and placing the adhesive tape on all of the letters, I can go back to the word W and start peeling it off. Now, originally, I did not think that, placing the letters on the foam and then adding Barely Glue Arts would work. I was just really, really hoping that it did, because I did not want to use the tiny attacher for the letters. I did want those words to stand out. So I'm really glad to let you know that it worked. So it did end up gluing onto the fabric. It just took a minute for the actual glue to dry onto the fabric, and the Distress Oxide did not react to the glue like I thought it would. I thought it was just going to start to kind of like ooze into the letters, and so it kind of become like a little messy ink blob, but it actually didn't. So I was really, really happy about that. Also, hindsight, I tend to always forget this part, but I probably should have worked my way backwards on the on the word, starting with the letter T, because as I'm placing down the letters individually, I'm starting to realize that the letter T is probably not going to land where I wanted it to land originally. I kind of wanted it to land in the middle of the two bigger candle flames, but now it's going to kind of sit on top of one of the other flames, and that's not really what I wanted. So I should have started the other way, but again, hindsight's always 20/20. So, but it still didn't look too bad. So I was still happy. I just did, like I said, I just had a plan, and those little details kind of, when they don't work out for me, they kind of irritate me. Now, after everything was said and done, I wanted to go ahead and make sure to add the foam adhesive tape to the Holy Spirit as well. When I placed it onto the word focus card, I didn't like how it just kind of fell flat. I kind of wanted it, to make it dimensional. And I also kind of work in groups of like 3, and that just seems to, whenever you add elements, the number 3 just seems to kind of give it a well-balanced look and feel. So I had already, put the foam adhesive on the word wait and on one of the candles, and leaving the Holy Spirit flat onto the page, it didn't feel right. When I was doing the adhesive on the Holy Spirit, I realized I never used the blue wreath, which was the whole inspiration for the color wait. So here you kind of see me fuss with it to see if I can make it fit. I do end up cutting the wreath in half to see if maybe I can kind of work it in there, because I wanted to incorporate that blue wreath. I did end up cutting it even more so, and cutting into the brown parts as kind of like making it part of the leaves or the stems or the sticks that kind of stick out. So it's a more softer feel, so it's not like a rigid cut. So I do round that out. When you have your die cuts and your backgrounds, make them work for you and for your project. So don't be scared to cut off pieces and doctor everything up. They're for you. Make it work for you. So here, this is exactly what I mean. I cut it down a little bit, and I'm trying to fit it in, and I ended up putting it between the pine cone and the greenery, and it worked. And those are the final pieces or elements that I'm adding to the word card, and I'm done. I glue in the last piece, and I am really, really excited with how it turned out. It's a little bit different from what I had originally had in mind. I had wanted to use the bigger, wreath as a whole, but I ended up forgetting about it. But sometimes the after is just as pretty. And so I'm really, really happy with my project and how it turned out. I'm thanking you for coming along with me for this process, and this is the final result. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry I haven't put anything out, and until next time, love you. Bye.